This is the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast with your host, Greg Jameson. Influencer marketing is the process of identifying, researching, engaging, and supporting the people who create high-impact conversations with your customers. On each episode, I talk with industry leaders, business rock stars, and internet celebrities who contribute their knowledge about influencing others and growing your influence.
Welcome to the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. I'm your host, Greg Jameson, and I have got a special guest with me here today. His name is Steve Mchesney, and Steve and I have actually just met, but this is going to be a really fun conversation here because Steve comes to us. His previous life, I guess, was being a stunt man. So he's been in the movies and he knows all about crashing and burning. And maybe that has something to do with where the conversation is going to take us here today about marketing with the new realities. But just want to say welcome, Steve. Glad you could join us here today. And why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself?
Greg, I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here on your show. As you mentioned, I started off in my young adult life as a Hollywood stuntman. And believe it or not, I've been in sales my entire life. We've all been in sales our entire lives. We're always selling ourselves in one way or another. But in the movie business, when I got out of the Army, I went to a stunt school. And I studied with a guy by the name of Kim Kahana. And for those of you who don't know, Kim was Charles Bronson's stunt double. Looks remarkably like him. He was also on the Banana Splits Danger Island with Jan Michael Vincent. He played Chongo, but he was my stunt teacher. And one of the things that he taught in the school was how to market yourself as a stuntman. And it kind of taught us how to sneak into studios and get to meet the right people. And just to give you kind of a background, I grew up in Hollywood and I used to sneak onto all the different studio lots. And one of the shows that I used to always sneak onto to watch was Bonanza. And it got to the point where everybody knew me. All of the actors knew me. All of the security guards knew me. I was the little kid. I was little Stevie. So I snuck into Universal Studios when I was in stunt school, and they were filming Battlestar Galactica. And Lauren Green was one of the stars of that show. So, and I knew him when I was a kid from the Bonanza set. So I snuck into the studio to the soundstage, and I see Lauren Green sitting on his chair, and I make a beeline to walk toward him. Well, a production assistant stops me and says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Oh, I'm here to talk to Mr. Green." And he goes, "Who are you?" I went, "Well, I'm an old friend of his." And he's going, "No, you're going to have to leave." I said, No, I'm an old friend of his." And Lauren Green looks up, and I wave at him. He looks at me like this. It's funny. He goes like that. "Come on over." So the production assistant's not happy, right? So I walk over to him and he goes, "Can I help you?" And I went, "Mr. Green, you probably don't remember me, but when I was a little kid, I used to come onto the Bonanza set all the time and watch you film." And he looks at me with a confused look and he goes, "Stevie?" And I went, "Yeah." He went, "Oh, how you doing?" And, so it was great. And I said, "Well, I'm in stunt school. I'm trying to break in." He goes, "Do you have your SAG card yet?" And I went, "Well, no, I'm just breaking in." He goes, "Wait a minute." Calls over an assistant director. He says, "Give him a stunt on this show. I want him to get his SAG card." That's how I got my SAG card. Thanks to Lauren Green. Anyway, so great little story how when I was a kid, I sold myself to get onto these studio lots, and later on in life, it came and paid me back, which was kind of nice. Anyway, I ended up doing over 350 TV shows and movies, and my whole career ended when I crushed my kneecap. I didn't need to end. All my stunt buddies, they went through all kinds of pain, but for me, it was just a pain I didn't want to go through again. So I took advantage of the celebrities that I knew, and I ended up opening a restaurant in Encino, California. So a lot of my celebrity buddies would come to my restaurant. And well, of course, when the public knows a celebrity is there, then they want to come too. So it was a great little marketing ploy. But it was, again, me moving into marketing. And then throughout my life, things had changed. And I ended up owning a karate school for a long time. Then I had to market to not just the kids, but I had to market to their parents. So I learned a lot about marketing. The last 5 years, I've actually been working for a giant seminar company teaching copywriting boot camps. And they fly me all over the United States. Actually, been to Puerto Rico with them. But I teach a 2-day copywriting boot camp for these companies. And so I decided, I learned so much by teaching that I decided to write a book. So I did. I wrote a book called Rearranging Change, How You Market to an Ever-Changing World. And that kind of brings us to today, because all of those little secrets that I've learned throughout my life are now in that book. And it's kind of a fun thing. And plus I come from Hollywood. I made sure my book was very entertaining. It's fun to read. And I think if you have fun, you're going to learn. So it's kind of where we are today, Greg.
That's awesome. And there's some amazing lessons even in what you just said there, in terms of, being the person that puts themselves out there and really getting in front of these people, and then utilizing the influence of celebrities to kind of take you to the next thing that you're doing in marketing there, as well as all of the other
Absolutely.
changes that you were talking about there. So we've got a ton to talk about. Let's actually start here with the whole idea of, you said you used some of these celebrities and brought them into your restaurant and stuff. How can the average business owner, if they don't know any celebrities, maybe, how do you think that they could go out there and kind of leverage celebrities or influencers in any form to really help them launch their business or launch their next product?
Well, part of that comes into copywriting. I mean, one of the things they call as a motivator that they use in copywriting is called hero worship. And hero worship is simply using a celebrity. Like, for instance, if you wrote a book and you have Oprah Winfrey say that your book needs to be read, all of a sudden sales go through the roof. That's called hero worship. If you look at Lincoln on their commercials, they got Matthew McConaughey saying that you should own a Lincoln. Well, that's hero worship. Hero worship doesn't always have to be with a celebrity, though. Let's say you're a local business, even a pizza parlor, just for an example. If there was a firefighter that did a heroic deed, and you give that firefighter free pizza for the next year because of what he's done, but you use that in your marketing, because people will look at that firefighter as the hero. A local school teacher. It doesn't always have to be a celebrity that we all know famous. If you have that ability, that's great. But if you don't, you've got to go with what you do have. And that's a local hero. So that's one of the ways to do that, for sure. I happen to be lucky because I happen to know the celebrities because of the work I did.
Yeah, one of the things that I found is that I've always attended a lot of conferences and stuff, and I've always made it a point to meet the people there that either were putting on the conference, or their, quote, celebrity type guests or whatever that they might have being a speaker or whatever. I'd be like, I would wait until all of the other people had gone up there, after somebody spoke or whatever. And I'd make sure I was the last one, not
Sure.
the first one.
Absolutely.
I wanted them to remember me and
to remember you.
And then, because I was the last one in line, if they weren't in a hurry to get on a plane or whatever, I could always spend a little bit of extra time and kind of talk to them and so forth. And then do things like invite them onto my podcast or whatever, and start to establish that kind of relationship with them. And then as a result of it, I've had those kinds of people write endorsements for my books and stuff. And it's absolutely huge when you can do that.
That's exactly how it works. I mean, like you said, at conferences, make sure you meet the people. If you're local, join your local chamber of commerce and go to the events, go to the coffees, the breakfasts, meet the other business people, because it is a socialized, using the socialization will build your business, because people will recommend you, but they're only going to recommend you if they know who you are. They're not going to do it if you're a complete stranger. It's like using social media. You need to be social. You need to comment. You need to share. You need to take place, not sell, but be social, because once people like you, it's the know, like, and trust factor. Once they know you, now they'll look you up. They'll find what you do. They'll buy your products because now they know who you are. So it's just, you take it one step at a time, but and do it purposefully, what you're doing.
Yeah. So how is it different to market, and maybe you don't know this, but you use the local pizza place as an example. So we'll just run with that. How is it different to market a local business like that versus trying to market yourself as a stuntman?
I really think in a lot of ways it's exactly the same. It's just the product you're selling. As a stuntman, I'm selling my services. As a stuntman, pizza parlors selling their pizzas as a product. You've still got to go out and put yourself out there. You've still got to put yourself in front of the traffic. Traffic is always there. In my particular case, as a stuntman, it's the movie studios. It's the producers and directors. I had to get myself in front of them. If you're a pizza parlor, you need to get yourself in front of the people who can become your customers. Whether you're doing it in brick and mortar or nowadays, it's all happening online. Again, the traffic is there. You just need to put your hook into the right pond. That's the people that you need to come at you. Not just do a shotgun approach, because that'll never work. You've got to get niche in there, and find out who you're going to go after, and then put your hook there.
Yeah, I really like how you're saying that, because so many people think that they need to create traffic, and you don't have to create traffic at all. The traffic's there. You just
traffic
need
is there. Yeah.
Put yourself.
And there's a lot of traffic there. No matter what your niche is, there's a lot of traffic there. I mean, if it doesn't matter what you do, you can be, you can collect mosquitoes. If you go to Facebook and put mosquito collection, 17 groups are going to pop up. I mean, so, those.
I'm going to try that.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that'd be true, but that's the whole point. The traffic is there. You just have to go out and get it.
Yeah. So this whole idea of being social and getting in front of people, I think, is something that is really challenging maybe right now, because of the fact that we're still in the pandemic issue here. I know that you're coming from Florida, I'm coming from Colorado, both of which are opening up, but not every state is opening up. And even those that are, it seems like social distancing protocols are still in place. It's tough to go to a conference and shake hands with somebody. How do we really handle marketing our businesses during this time?
You need to go online. You need to go virtual. That's really the biggest answer, is to go online and start with the social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, even TikTok. People think TikTok's for just kids, and it's not. It's a huge market out there. But you go there, start socializing, start getting your name out there, because when it does open up, if I was in Colorado, I would look you up and go have lunch with you, because we've met now virtually. You see what I'm saying? So we want to start that by first virtually meeting and getting our name out there. Now, I will tell you some of the things I've seen businesses do. I was isolated like everybody else, but there was a restaurant that opened up at Port Canaveral. It's called Grills, and it's one of the ones that my wife and I really like. And so we heard they were open, and we thought, okay, they're opening up the state. Let's go see if we can have lunch there. So we did. We drove over there, and what they were doing was what all businesses need to do as we come out of the COVID-19. They were making it obvious that they were doing things to keep me, the customer, safe. For instance, they only put people in tables every other table, so they had social distancing. But as I'm eating my lunch, 2 tables over, that party got up and left. Well, here comes their busboy or server, armed to the teeth with disinfectants, and scrubbed down the entire table, the chairs, under the chairs. I mean, they made it obvious that they were going to re-clean this whole thing. But as a customer, I'm thinking, well, that's great. I don't feel at all unsafe doing business here. So you need to give the impression that you are making your customers safe, whatever that means, if you have a brick and mortar business. I think that's really important.
Yeah. I lost my train of thought there when you were
that's
saying
okay,
that, because
I have another thought for you, not just on the COVID, but we're talking about how you build your business, and you can do it on social. Part of the things that I think the businesses need to start thinking about is more on targeting their market, targeting who they're going after. I mean, I know everybody wants everybody to come and do business with them. I get that, but you need to target. And what I mean by targeting is, you have to realize right now there's 5 generations on this planet. You've got the traditional generation, that's our older individuals. You've got the baby boomers, which I'm a member of. You've got Generation X. Yeah, hello. You've got the millennials, and then you've also got Generation Z. Well, those are 5 different markets, and you need to know how to talk to each of those a little bit differently if you want their business. I'll give you an example. Traditional generation, they were born during the Great Depression. They came out of World War II. They were They were told to be seen and not heard. So they don't really offer much information. You've got to ask them. But you got to keep in mind, they're very polite. They said yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and please and thank you. And that's the language they like to hear. You can't drop an F-bomb on the traditional generation because they will not appreciate it. Millennials, that's part of their everyday language today. But so when you're going after the traditional generation, just remember to be polite, because then you'll get their attention. Baby boomers like you and I are, and believe me, when I talk about these generations, I'm not saying that any are good or bad. It's not that. What it is. Baby boomers tend to be greedy. Baby boomers like power. Look at our Congress. It's filled with baby boomers. It's all about the money. It's all about the power. And I think that's partly because of the way they were raised. Remember, their parents came from the Great Depression. They were pinching a penny. They weren't going to spend money foolishly. So baby boomers got one present for their birthday or one gift for Christmas. Well, that made baby boomers want more. We don't want to keep up with the Joneses. We want to surpass them. So when you market to baby boomers, you've got to talk about benefits. Benefits, benefits, benefits. What's in it for them? As the old saying goes, the old radio station, WIIFM, what's in it for me, right? That's a baby boomer's mantra, basically. Generation X, a little bit different. They're called latchkey kids when they were growing up. Generation X, they came home from school, nobody was home. That's why they called them latchkey kids. But they learned how to cook for themselves and clean, and they can take care of crisis. They're very independent. So when you market to that generation, you want to give them an either or choice. Give them choice of A or B and let them make up their mind. They feel good about that. Millennials, companies are spending billions trying to figure out how to market to millennials. And here is the biggest secret you have for millennials. Use hashtags and use text messaging. That's their way of communicating. If you want to reach them, make sure you have those two elements in place. Millennials are very educated. They're very smart. And they're the largest population on the planet right now. And they are the ones, believe it or not, who are going to move into the power positions as the baby boomers move out. They skip Generation X, but millennials are educated, so they're going to move into those powers. Good news for us. I don't get political at all. However, millennials are very accepting of everybody. They don't care about your religion, your skin color, your sexual orientation. They like all people. And I think that's going to be a good thing for the planet once they move into those power positions. Gen Z, the last one we'll talk about, they've never existed without Amazon. So this generation is wanting things delivered to them. They don't want to go out and get it. They want it delivered to them. That's why we're seeing more and more grocery deliveries at home. Even the lanes at the grocery stores where you can pull into and they bring the groceries out to you, that's Generation Z. That's right up their alley, what they're looking for. Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and all those companies are going to do very well with Generation Z. Now, Generation Z, they don't have the money yet. They're the youngest generation. Their parents have the money, but they're getting there. Oldest Generation Z right now is 22 years old. So they're moving into that market for us. So I always start with that when I talk to people about marketing, because you've got to understand who your market is, who you're targeting, and then change your marketing for each of those targets. And that's just a good example through generations.
Yeah, great information there. And actually, let's take a quick break. And on the other side of that, let's pick up on that a little bit, because I want to talk about not just these 5 generations, but how we should be marketing, whether or not we should be addressing selling to everybody, selling to all 5 generations, or if we should actually be narrowing our focus. And maybe that depends upon the business that we're in. But
okay,
let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
All righty.
Hi, I'm Greg Jameson, the host of the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. Every week, I not only have the opportunity, but the real privilege of interviewing experts in their field, true thought leaders, and I get to share this information with you. The purpose of this is really to help you sell more of your products and services online, which is the core premise of my primary business, Web Stores Limited. At Web Stores, we go out and we create e-commerce websites for small businesses. Plus, we do internet marketing and digital advertising for those businesses to really help them sell more online. We have a whole number of resources and tools designed to help make this process easier for businesses, probably much like yours. I've been the author of several #1 best-selling books, including Amazon's Dirty Little Secrets and The Influencer Effect, plus a whole series of online courses if you want to learn how to do this stuff yourself. The best way to remain in contact with me, besides subscribing to this podcast, of course, is to simply go to gregjameson.com/free gift, where I have a special offer for you simply because you are a valued listener to this podcast. Thanks again, and now let's get back to today's episode.
Welcome back to the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. My guest today is Steve Mchesney. And right before the break, Steve and I were talking about generations and specifically whether or not we should be marketing to all 5 of these generations that are out there, or if it makes more sense, depending upon our business, for us to say, you know what, we really don't care about the younger generations. Maybe what we are doing is we're specifically trying to focus on, say, the baby boomer generation. So what's your opinion, Steve, on that?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the product or service that's being offered. For instance, if you're selling health products, for example, traditional generation is probably not the generation you want to go after. Unfortunately, these people have already come to the terms with their demise. They're not looking to take more vitamins. But baby boomers, they want vitamins. Baby boomers quit smoking, quit drinking, take vitamins. They want to live longer. They want to enjoy the stuff they've accumulated. Remember that greed factor. So if you're selling a health product, I would probably aim more toward the baby boomers and not the traditional generation. If I was to go to another generation, I'd go to millennials, because millennials are already health conscious. So they might be a good target audience for health as well. But I'll give you a quick story of how you can market to all 5, but you need to listen to all 5. I was in New Orleans, and I'm a fan of Anne Rice. And in her book, she talks about the Lafayette Cemetery in the Garden District. So I went and visited the Lafayette Cemetery, and it was cool. All old tombstones are all falling apart, but I had no idea who was buried there. So I got my phone out and I did a search for Lafayette Cemetery. All of these companies wanted to sell me a tour. It was like $20 a person. And I went, free information, Lafayette Cemetery. Nope, all these companies want to sell me a tour. And I thought to myself, in today's day and age, your phone can't be your tour guide. And then I was like, bing, inspiration. So I started a company and I created an app called New Orleans at Your Feet. And in this app, I have 3 tours. I've got a Garden District tour that includes the Lafayette Cemetery. I have a French Quarter tour, and I have a ghost tour of the French Quarter. And it took me almost 2 years to do all the research of all the locations and putting these tours together. But I made it reasonable. It was $2.99 per tour. So it's called New Orleans at Your Feet. So once it was all done, I'm having a discussion with my brother-in-law about the marketing. And my idea was I wanted to go to the New Orleans airport and get 3 billboards. One was going to be when you got off the plane, there's our logo of our feet walking, and it says baggage claim this way. As you get closer to baggage claim, there's another billboard that's got our feet walking, and it says you're almost there. And then as you go down the escalator, there's that big digital billboard, and it says, you let us get you this far, let us show you the rest of the city. New Orleans at your feet. Apple, Google. Great idea, right? If I could have afforded the $25,000 a week that airport wanted for that campaign, I would have done it, but it was way out of my price range. So I'm having this conversation, not realizing that my brother-in-law's son, my nephew, is listening in, and he's a millennial. Now, he's 29 years old. He's in the United States Navy, and he works on their nuclear projects. I mean, he's a smart guy. He looks at me and he goes, Unc, I got to be honest with you, I wouldn't download that app. I mean, I grabbed my baby boomer heart. I'm like, what do you mean? I just spent a couple of years doing this. And he goes, well, I'm all about technology and my phone. I always have it with me, but I'm not interested in doing a point A to point B tour. I'd rather just walk around the city, and whenever I'm near something cool, have my phone text me. I can hit a button and it'll tell me all about where I'm standing. So we added the geo tour using geofencing, and it is our #1 selling tour on the app because I listened to a millennial. So my baby boomer mind didn't even think about geofencing and how that was out of my realm of thought. But a millennial, that's how they think. And so I changed it, and it became a huge success for my app. So listen to the millennials.
I think, yeah, definitely listen to listen to your customers in general, but one of the things there about your app that I've always talked about with my wife is it seems like it would be awesome. I don't even, here's my phone. That it would be awesome regardless of where you were. Just be looking at something, be like, oh, there's a mountain over there. I wonder what that is. Hold your phone up and say, yeah, that's Mount Evans or whatever.
Yeah.
And give you some information about it. It's kind of crazy, actually, that you can't do that.
Well, Greg, there you go. There's something you can work on. And use the geofencing. I mean, let's face it, that phone that we have is a very smart computer. And I'm sure that the capability is there. You just got to go out and figure out how to do it. I didn't know anything about apps. I knew nothing about apps. I knew I was at the Lafayette Cemetery and I wanted to figure out a way to have my phone tell me about what's happening here. That's all I knew when I started. I still don't know how to code an app. I hired people in India to do it for me. By the way, I tried to hire a United States company to do that for me. Here's the difference. They wanted $50,000 just for Apple. And then it was an additional fee for Google. I got them to do it in India for me for $14,000, which included both. I mean, it's sad to say that I would love to give the business to our country, but our country has to be reasonable about what they're charging. Just, that's the way it is. That's not being political.
The reality is we, even in spite of COVID, or maybe COVID is even showing even more so that this is the case, we live in a global economy.
We do.
If you can be helping somebody in India or the Philippines or South America or Africa or whatever, that is not a bad thing. People sometimes make that out to be a bad thing. Personally, I consider it to be an awesome thing that you can help people regardless of where they're located. So, well,
you know what, great. That brings it right back to what my book is about. We're the human race. I mean, we're one planet, we're global. And when I talk about marketing, I'm not talking about, what your religious beliefs are or anything else. I'm talking about you're human. And here's the things that humans react to. Like we talked about the 5 generations. The other thing humans react to is communication styles, how you talk to people. Doesn't matter where they're from. Some people like just the bullet points. Some people like all the details, but you need to know which type of person that is if you want to be able to sell to them. You've got to know what motivates people. I have 12 motivators I go through in my book, but I'll give you the top 5. You got convenience is a motivator. Make it convenient. You'll sell your product. Love is a motivator. People love love. They love to fall in love, be in love. They love things. Companies like McDonald's use it in their slogan. I'm loving it. Southwest Airlines has the heart as a logo. It's love. Love is a huge motivator. Fear is a huge motivator. Anybody can use fear. How do you think all these alarm companies sell their alarm systems to all these homes, to wire their houses up with an alarm system? They use fear as their motivator. If you don't do this, you might get attacked. Another motivator, which is big, is ego. People, in fact, the ego is used almost everywhere you look. Any gym, Gold's Gym, 24-hour fitness centers, they're using ego. Make yourself look better. Clothing companies, they use ego. How you're going to look in these clothes. Shoe companies, women look at shoes and how their legs look in the shoes. It's ego based. They're using ego as that motivator. It's a huge motivator. And believe it or not, and I teach this to my copywriting students, the more of these motivators that you can include in one piece of copy, the better you are, the better chance you are of selling that product or service using these motivators. Sensory appeal is another one. Sensory appeal is anything you can smell, touch, taste, feel. How many times you walked into a mall and you're walking through a department store and here are these people with the perfumes and they're squirting it at you and wafting it towards you. That's all sensory appeal. I live near Disney. You go to Disney, particularly Hollywood Studios, I don't think they closed this restaurant down, but near the back, they have an Italian restaurant. And if you walk by that Italian restaurant, anytime between 11 and 1, all you're going to smell is garlic and Italian seasonings and herbs. Because you're just walking along and it's lunchtime and you're like, let's eat here. They're using sensory appeal. So it's a huge motivator. Again, anything you can do in your marketing that can include that. And it doesn't have to be real. I promise you, if you really concentrate and think about taking a lemon and slicing it in half, and then just imagine yourself sucking on half of that lemon, I promise you're going to pucker a little bit. And you didn't even have to have a lemon. Just the thought of it is sensory appeal. And so the more you can color your marketing with that, the better result you're going to have as well.
Yeah, I've always thought that it would be interesting that the first person that's going to be able to transmit smells over the internet is going to make a killing.
Scratch and sniff. I keep scratching that computer screen and nothing comes out. You're right about that, though.
When I was out the other day, I went by a Jimmy John's restaurant and they had a big sign out in front that said "free smells."
Just saying that is using sensory appeal. Smart. It's just smart. I love it. I mean, I always, whenever I do any kind of marketing campaign, I have a list of my motivators, and I always look down and say, what am I including here? Where is the motivator in here? Because if you don't have a motivator, there's nothing to motivate the people to take the action. You've got to give them something, a reason, you know, and I think that if you do this purposefully, you'll have a better result.
Well, it sounds like people need to go out and buy your book just to get this list of motivators here.
Listen, I'll do better than that for you, Greg, and for the people listening to your podcast. I will give them a free PDF copy of that book.
Awesome. That is great. And
I'll be at the end of the show. I mean, I'm sure I can give you all that information on that, and I'll be transparent. I'll give you a free copy. There's no catch. You get a free copy of the book, but when you give me your name and email address, you're going to get put onto my list. You'll be on my, get my newsletter. You can always unsubscribe if you want. But if you get that free book, the next page you get to on that sales funnel is going to offer you the same book in a paperback version where you just pay for the shipping and handling, $7.95. You don't have to do that. Keep the free one on your PDF. If you want a hard copy, do the $7.95. I'll send you a hard copy. Plus I got bonuses and all that too. But again, I am all about serving the people because it's the know, like, and trust factor. You get to know me because of my book. I'm giving it to you for free. You're going to like me. If there's something else that I might have for you, I'm sure that you're going to see what kind of guy I am and want to do business with me. That's what it's all about.
It is. And what you're doing there, giving your book out as what we call in the industry a lead magnet,
sure,
is something that I think anybody listening to this show really needs to understand, is that is one of the ways that you need to be attracting people into your tribe is by offering a free lead magnet. So,
and make it a good lead magnet. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people are concerned about how many friends they have on Facebook or how many followers they have on LinkedIn and things like that, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. But that's completely out of your control now, because in any minute, Mark Zuckerberg could decide, I'm taking Facebook down, and you've lost all of those people that were your friends. You've lost, you don't own that list. Facebook does. If you create your own list, that's in your control. And the only people that are on it are people that want to be on it. Like I said, I love canned spam laws because you can unsubscribe to any list and not get any more emails from those people. My emails you're going to want to get from me because I don't sell you stuff. I give you good information. That's what it's all about. So you have to own your own list and you got to build that. Same thing as brick and mortar. Brick and mortar, I think there was a test done. Go back to a pizza parlor for just a second. There was a test done. This pizza parlor, I learned this from Dean Graziosi, by the way, one of the guys that I follow. They spent $5,000 a month on advertising, whether it was in direct mail or newspaper ads, but it was to the local community on their pizza parlor. Well, then Dean Graziosi told them, why don't you offer a free slice of pizza if somebody gives you their name and their email address when they come into the store. And then they did that. And so they built a list of all these email addresses. And then they wanted them to test how much response you get from your marketing and how much response you get if you send an email to these people, offering them something only through the email. And they learned that they got like a 60% increase in business just from the emails instead of for the advertising. And it didn't cost them anything. It cost them a slice of pizza. So that's the power of that list and how you can use that. And it's really important that you do it. And I do it by giving you a very powerful book. And by the way, you can go to Amazon. This paperback that I give you for $7.95 on Amazon is $24.95 right now. Or that PDF I'm going to give you for free. You can go to Amazon and get it for $2.99. Your choice. I think I'd go for the free one.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to run out of time here. Before we do, is there kind of any final thoughts that you would tell people in terms of what's the best way for them to be doing business right now during this time of
Yeah.
pandemic?
Yeah. And it's the way I feel all the time. Just make sure people understand that you're wanting to be of service to them. It's not just about getting the money from them to be your customer. It's about what you can do for them. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Zig Ziglar said that, and it's just a true statement in life. Again, it's a human being that you're dealing with. So be human. Use some techniques, understand the generation they're from, understand how you can market to that generation using techniques that that generation understands, their communication styles. Do they like bullet points? Do they want details? Do they like both? Understand that, use motivators, but most importantly, be genuine. I mean, just be a person and care about people. If you care about people and they know it, they know you, they like you, and they trust you, believe it, they will do business with you. That's really the secret to sales.
Yep, I totally agree. So as we wrap up here, you're talking about people being able to get the PDF
Yes,
book from you.
yes.
How
You
can they
can
do
get,
that?
just go to rearrangingchange.com. Rearrangingchange.com. If you just go there, it's going to take you right to the page. You'll see the offer for the free book. Just put your name and your email address, and by return email, you're going to get the PDF copy of this book. I've also got a podcast. It's called Rearranging Change Podcast. Funny name for that. You can get it from any of the podcast stations out there. And I will tell you, you're going to be one of the first to hear this, Greg. There's a brand new thing that I'm doing. One of the things I didn't talk about in my history after the stunt life is that I was also a hypnotist. I became a hypnotist, and I did some of the stage shows. People came up on stage and it was fun. But learning hypnosis, I also did a lot of back of the room sales items. I had CDs on quitting smoking, losing weight, building confidence, overcoming insomnia, things like that. And that's been sitting on my shelf for 30 years. That's how long ago it was when I did this. I've just pulled them out. I've updated everything, and I'm going to start making my CDs available for people because of stress management. Right now, people are stressed because of the COVID-19. I've got a self-hypnosis tape I'm going to sell for $9.95 on stress management. You can't beat it. And if some people don't want to do hypnosis, I get that. That's okay too. Just understand it's not scary. It's not magical. It's not mythical. It's just a way of focusing using your subconscious mind to help you get through some issues. So that's going to be coming up very soon too. You're the first to get to hear that, by the way.
Very cool. And can you hypnotize me to become a stuntman?
Well, certainly I could do that. I don't know if you'll succeed, but you'll certainly feel like you will. Yeah. Absolutely. So rearrangingchange.com, get a copy of my book, go to the Rearranging Change podcast if you want to hear my shows. I do use celebrities on my show, by the way. My show is in two parts. The first part's a marketing tip. The second part is also always a celebrity interview. My partner is Ron Seggi, and he's been on the radio for 50 years, and he's got the Tonight Show of radio. So we have, we just had Jimmy Fallon on last week. We had Gene Simmons from Kiss. We had Howie Mandel. So every episode, you're going to have a celebrity guest as well as the marketing tip at the beginning.
That's great. And I'm going to have to listen to the Gene Simmons ones. He's one of my business heroes.
Yeah, he should be. He's got Rock and Brews is the reason we had him on. He's talking about Rock and Brews, but he's a smart guy. He had his own record label. He's an author. He's just a smart businessman.
Well, it has been absolutely awesome having you on the show here today, Steve, and really appreciate it. We'll make sure that we get your website in the show notes here as well. And
excellent. It's been my pleasure. Been my pleasure. And I'm telling you, when I come to Colorado, we're having lunch.
That is, I really appreciate the fact that you do that, because I recently before the pandemic hit, I was in New York, and before I went there, I reached out to all of my social media contacts in New York, and I was like, "Hey, let's do lunch," type thing. We've been we've been connected over social media here for a while. I'd like to get to meet you and know you. nobody wanted to do it. And I was just like, are you kidding me? That's what this is all about.
Missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'll hold you to it.
Very good. I look forward to it.
Excellent.
So,
thanks a lot, Greg.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of 20 Minutes of Influence. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you are interested in booking myself as a speaker at one of your events or are interested in any of my coaching programs, please visit gregjameson.com.